Angola, produced by Ariana Williams, Emma Jocelyn, Kimberly Brooke Wade, and Richard Mag Transier. Angola State Penitentiary was nicknamed the Alcatraz of the South. It is the largest maximum security prison in the United States with 6,300 offenders and 1,800 staff. Just kidding, we're not talking about the prison. Today we're going to talk about the country, so let's get started. Today we will cover the location and geography of the country, the history of Angola, the controversy of the country, past and present economy, the drilling and production, and then the predicted oil production. Angola is located in southwest Africa along the Atlantic coast. It borders Namibia to the south, the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the north and northeast, the Republic of the Congo to the north, and Zambia to the east. Angola consists of coastal plains, mountains, and plateaus. The plateaus are made of sandstone and granite. Sandstone is a type of sedimentary rock that is also a good source rock. It is made of sand-sized particles and has a porosity of 10 to 30%. The Quaternary Tertiary sedimentary cover rocks consist of quartzic sandstone, sand, gravel, and clay. These rocks extend over about half of Angola, majorly the eastern part. The Pleistocene Cretaceous marine sediments are located in a group of coastal basins on the western part of Angola. The Mesozoic Paleozoic sediments occur mainly in the Kasanji Graben, a geographical depression located in the north. Many subvolcanic and volcanic bodies that consist of basalts, dolerites, trachytes, phonolites, and syenites. Upper Proterozoic fold belts are located around Angola's Precambrian shield. These are associated with an abundant occurrence of base metal mineralization and industrial metals. The lower Proterozoic Archean rocks are composed of greenstone belts that are present in southern, central, and Angolan area. The early history. The first people were the Khoisan group. The Betu people came in from the north in 500 AD. In the 1300s, Angola became part of the Kingdom of the Congo. Portugal was the first of the Europeans to come into Angola. The expedition was led by Doigo Khan Cao. The relationship between Angola and Portugal was very strong. They became very strong trading partners as well. The major exports that Angola would send to Portugal were slaves, ivory, and minerals. The majority of the slaves were sent to Brazil. In return, they would receive new technology from Portugal. Luanda was made an official trading post in 1575, and shortly after, Portugal converted Angola to Christianity. In 1561, the King of Portugal died and Spain took over Portugal. Luanda became an official city in 1605, and Portugal regained its independence from Spain in 1640. The Dutch occupied Angola for 7 years. Slavery was abolished in 1836, and Angola started trading with other countries besides Portugal to help supplement not being able to trade slaves. Angola became a province in 1951, and thousands of Europeans came to Angola. Preceding the Angolan Civil War was the Angolan War of Independence. The Angolan Civil War of Independence widely affected the Angolan people and economy. Angola was granted independence from Portugal in 1975, but their civil war lasted for 26 years. The war ended with a ceasefire after thousands of Angolan Africans were killed. The Angolan Civil War began with Portugal invading Angola and enslaving its people. The Angolans were forced into cotton cultivation, but it was not until the 1960s that the Angolans started fighting back. The People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, or the MPLA, was formed in the 1950s. It was the main social base among the Abandu people, Luanda, Benguela, and Hambo. Supported by several African countries and the Soviet Union, also Cuba became its strongest ally. The National Front for the Liberation of Angola, or the FNLA, was formed parallel to the MPLA. They were devoted to defending the interests of the Bakongo people and supported the restoration of the Congo Empire. It was supported by the People's Republic of China. The United States did not support the Angola assist against Portugal because it is a NATO ally, but it did receive aid from the U.S. during the decolonization conflict. The population moved into the city areas as the Civil War moved throughout the countryside. People needed a strong economy to base their lives off of. So the government based the economy on oil production and exploration and saw an immediate profit. Because the relationship of the economy and oil, as more oil was found in the country, the more the economy grew. But also, if the global oil market was doing poorly, so would the Angolan economy. Angola used to be the fastest growing economy in the world, with 20% growth in 1995. But it fluctuates because it is very unstably based in oil. The fuel prices in Angola were the lowest in the world, but in September of 2014, in an effort to reduce subsidy costs, the financial support to an economy, the government raised all the prices for fuel, which did reduce the subsidy cost, but only by 0.5% from the already 4% that was part of the gross domestic product. Angola's dependence on the oil industry is further cemented by its exports. 95% of the country's total exports is crude oil. Almost all is exported because of the lack of infrastructure that is needed to refine the crude. A lot of the infrastructure was lost in the destruction caused by the Civil War. 49% of the total oil produced in Angola is exported to China, making it the second largest oil supplier to China behind Saudi Arabia. Angola also supplies the United States with 5% of its total crude oil imports. But because the U.S. produces more oil every year, the need to import it becomes less. The country's economy suffered due to the worldwide decrease in oil prices, compacted by the nationwide drought and lack of production due to the maintenance of existing infrastructure. The country originally welcomed foreign investment in its oil industry. China and many Western countries wanted to come in and profit off of the growing oil industry in the country. The government thought that since many countries were competing against each other, they would profit and would be able to diversify the economy, creating new jobs and helping the citizens. But because of human rights issues, child labor, and inadequate working conditions, Western countries backed out of the investments and many boycotted their products, making China the sole investor. Because there is no competition, China was able to bring in its own workers and management styles, which did not help the already high unemployment. An economy that relies on only one industry, or like Angola relies on oil, is unstable. One way to make the economy stronger would be to diversify it, or have different ways to bring money into the country. The World Bank has given loans to Angola in an effort to stimulate change. They also suggested that the way the economy is run should change as well. There are many different avenues that Angola could pursue outside of the oil industry. They have a lot of natural resources, including diamonds, that could be exported, along with tourism potential and agriculture. But because the exporting crude oil is so profitable, they have had a hard time trying to transition into a less oil-dependent economy. Angolan oil production started with a modest 6 barrels of oil per day in 1915, but it has steadily grown to 1.75 million barrels of oil per day, recorded in 2014. One of the largest offshore producers in oil is Chevron, which produces 500,000 barrels per day. Senegal, an Angolan government-funded group that regulates how and where oil companies drill and produce. It owns its own oil company, and without Senegal, the oil production industry would be similar to a war zone. With companies competing unfairly, the citizens would end up as the victims. The Ministry of Petroleum is in collaboration with Senegal, can indict penalties and infractions onto the oil companies that are conducting illegal activities. Any fines that are given out, 60% of the income goes to the state and 40% goes to the Ministry of Petroleum. This makes up 85% of the government's revenue. During 2004, Angola's first tax on its oil sector was the petroleum tax law. The tax rate on oil sales is 35%, which is the second highest rate, only second highest to the coal sales. The government has no major plan for cleaning up an oil spill if it occurs. The national director at Angola's Ministry of Environment, Vladimir Russo, once said, "We have the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, which was created in 2008, which makes it compulsory for all of the companies operating here to have their own mechanisms and means to address oil spills." Meaning, if oil companies, they are responsible for managing their own oil spills. There is a lot more drilling offshore than on land. The land reservoirs were depleted by overproduction, forcing offshore exploration. Because it has become more common to drill offshore, there are more regulations. There are also more dangers to drilling offshore, including the possibilities of oil spills and more expensive equipment, driving the costs up. BP began drilling in Angola in the 1970s. Continuing into the 1990s, when it purchased over 4 oil blocks, which are divided reservoirs. In 2011, BP acquired the control of 5 more. With BP controlling and producing this much oil, both the British Petroleum and Angola's government are profiting very well off the oil blocks. Cobalt has also invested in the Angolan oil market. They put the most effort into experimental drillings, overcoming difficulties with salt formations and deep sea wells. Chevron began drilling in the 1980s. Since then, it has been the most beneficial to Angola. Chevron's workforce in Angola is comprised of 90% Angolans, which is about 3,000 people. Chevron even owns schools just for training the Angolans up to Chevron standards. Chevron helped start the Angolan Partnership Initiative. This program helps get tools to farmers, education to rural communities, and microloans to small businesses. Even though the oil prices are low now in 2015, it doesn't mean that it's going to slow down the drilling in the future. Angola's oil is to be drilled and produced for many years. It just depends on how much the rest of the world needs it. Other variables such as geopolitical risks, market variables, and consumption affects the oil prices. Drilling contractors such as Baker Hughes and Valco are planning on drilling in the future. Now, let's review. Angola is located in southwest Africa, and it has many coastal plains, mountains, and plateaus that are made up of sandstone and granite. Angola was originally a Portugal colony, and it became independent in 1975 following a 26-year civil war ending in 2002. The economy is based on oil production, making it very unstable, but it is trying to diversify. Chevron, Cobalt, and BP are the major contributors to the oil economy, drilling mostly offshore. And there is a lot of oil left to be produced in Angola, promising continued production for the country. Thank you. Are there any questions? This concludes our presentation.